Well then, 20 years ago, we started this thing about 12 minutes in a taxi away from here. And it is pretty safe to say that neither of us would be sitting here today and would have even thought about starting such a thing if it wasn't for these fine people here and the work that they did when we were all wee little teenagers. I would like you to welcome, with the uttermost respect and joy, Carola Stoiber, Dimitri Hegemann, and Mad Coach Mike Banks. So this might run a little different than what you expect, maybe, and what you heard so far. And in order to get you to the mood, courtesy of DJ Adlib, who runs the editing team on the radio, here's a little something we prepared earlier, like on any other good cooking show. Well, if this was an applause, it was an applause to an entire culture, because we've heard tracks that are from the last 38 years, I want to say. Can I get a quick show of hands for people who recognize the track from the city or the area that they grew up in or do currently live right now? Really not? Come on. We had a lot of you covered there. Well, that went well. Fantastic. Well, you heard things in there from Detroit, from LA, from Paris, from Belgium, from Berlin, Germany, from Durban in South Africa, and a bunch of others. And I guess the idea was to show that even if you don't use any vocals, even if you don't have any classic signifiers of placing something geographically, it is a language that's spoken around the world right now, and that is super versatile. And even if you're only hearing a few bars of something, you can instantly get a feel of, oh, I know this is from that place. And we somehow believe, with all these high places that there are in the world, people put way too little emphasis on their actual surroundings, and that is what we want these fine people to talk about today. Maybe Carola, where were you raised?
I was raised in North Germany in a very small town with maybe even 200 people living there, and there was nothing going on. So I decided very early that I have to move to Berlin.
I mean, at that time, Berlin was not the most natural place to move to.
No, that was '84, where the war was still up, and there were not a lot of young people influencing the city, with a lot of older people. Because of the status, everybody was quite scared to come here to a part of a city that is surrounded by a wall. But the thing I decided to do that was that there was already a special open-minded subculture music scene going on that was different from all other cities in West Germany. Eastern part I didn't know yet that days.
You were not from Berlin either, right?
No, actually, and I didn't want to leave my home small village, but I never heard a yes by the mayor or somebody. I had some crazy ideas in mind, and I wanted to, I was really inspired by this Woodstock festival, about these values of freedom, the green idea, community, togetherness. I liked that a lot, and I wanted to bring Woodstock into my small village, but they said, no, you better leave it. And then I really didn't want to give it up, but I was looking for an alternative life concept in my 500 people village, and there was nothing. You have to understand, Germany had nothing in those days. Not like maybe the Detroit guys, they had maybe the parents had the soul and before the blues, and so our parents' generation had nothing, so I moved.
Whereabouts was this?
What?
Whereabouts was this?
Whereabout?
The place that you lived in?
Westphalia, in Actually, I loved it, you know, to grow up. The world was okay, but we haven't had no cultural input, you know. It was very low, you know, and the generation of my parents, they were in the war, you know. Nobody talked, you know. It was difficult, and so we had a big desire for something new. And when these new sounds came, like psychedelic, Jimi Hendrix, and so, and the long hair, you know, and to live in a community, you know, together with friends and build an own microcosmos. That was the ideas I really loved, you know, hippie movement.
How many times were you offered to get beaten up in those sort of surroundings?
Beaten up? No.
I mean, where I come from, because I mean, 200 and 500 makes my 1200 village almost feel very urban already. But people at least were courteous enough to go like, okay, with that kind of hair, I'm going to beat you up, let's go outside.
Okay, no. I was clever enough, you know, to escape. But
first
no.
rule of self-defense, run.
No, I had this vision of, I don't know, it was really peaceful, you know. And with this romantic view, I entered West Berlin, you know. Also Detroit once, you know. I said, wow, everything is so beautiful. Till Mr. Banks explained what's going on. But no, anyway, Berlin was really an island, as Carola said. It was really an open mind scene since the student rights, since the 20s actually. And because of the wall, I always liked islands, and it was controlled by the Allied forces, by France, the British and the US forces. So if you were young enough and on time in Berlin, you had not to join the army, you know. So you can imagine the young boys who moved to West Berlin in the right age, 18 or so. They created a new consciousness. It was very critical, and so I missed the train. They catch me to the army, but I could get back later to Berlin. Actually, I must also say, the city developed me, you know.
In which regard?
They had the music, they had sounds. I'm a curious person, and they had something what I never have seen before, you know. I was a country boy, you know, and saw this big Hinterhof, the big courts, and then the nighttime. I never saw these things, you know. I was shocked when I saw like a small shop saying bakery, and a fashion designer was inside, you know. All this small,
how dare they?
Oh, how does this work, you know? So I had to learn a lot. I was quite, and my interest was watching night people, you know. I found these small spots. We had no curfew. Later on, we talk about that. So you could hang out till the morning and meet some weird philosophers, you know, talking about weird things. But that was amazing for me, you know. I studied musicology. Musicology is about the history of music trends and so. And in the days when I moved to Berlin, punk was a subject.
Did people in Detroit care at any stage about mere things like curfew?
Not really. Detroit got a curfew, but you know, you could always hit the after hours or something like that if you really wanted to just hang out. But yeah, the curfew was put in place by the auto company so the auto workers could get to work on time. That was the idea behind it. Of course, it's very dated now, but man, we had fun in Detroit after hours. It was always something to do. You know, the nighttime economy, or what Dimitri be talking about, is much different. Economy is a little illegal, but you could have a whole lot of fun, you know. So I never felt any curfew. I didn't feel no particular restriction to time other than trying to get to work the next day.
What sort of work was that?
I did construction work. Sometimes I get fired, get in trouble. Getting into it, union versus management, that type of shit, stuff. And then, or mechanic work. I did evictions. I did evictions for like 12 years.
That's probably a concept that's a little alien to most people outside of the States. Could you explain what that entails?
It's simple. You don't pay your rent, and then some guys come and knock on the door and put you out, put your stuff in the street. And we get paid for doing it. you know. So it was like, well, yo, man, you know, you ain't got no cheese, you got to roll, you know. And we ain't gonna tear your stuff up, we gonna respect you, but you gotta respect us. And I was the littlest guy on the crew. The crew is huge, so you don't wanna mess with them. And put you out, rain, shine, sleet or snow.
That sounds super heartbreaking. I mean, I don't think it's the easiest job to do.
Hey, you know, people make a lot of folks make, they let vices get them. Gambling, too much smoking crack, drugs. If they was down on their luck and we knew they was really down on their luck and they was working hard, the bailiff would give them a break. It wasn't up to us. We was just the movers. The bailiff had to make the decision. And a lot of times, even though it sounded like a bad thing, it was a lot of beautiful moments in it, you know.
Like how?
Like this one little girl was like, "Mama, why are we getting put out?" Her mama was trifling. She on crack. And she said, "That's just how it is." And I told the little girl, I said, "That ain't how it is. Your mama's on crack and she don't know shit. So if you go to school and learn something, this won't happen to you." And she said, "That's what I'm gonna do." You know, so it's some beautiful moments even in the pain. It wasn't like we the bad guy all the time. My boy got shot up doing it. And we was trying to help that family out. And he got killed just because, you know, it was a misunderstanding. But yeah, it wasn't a bad job. I even had laughs on that job. You know, some people could get put out and still be smiling. You know, one guy came to the door, buck naked, and he said, "Have at it." And he had shit everywhere and put shit on all the doorknobs, and anything we touched, it had shit on it. So he got us that night, you know. He won that one, so he figured a way to beat us, you know. So yeah, it was you know. Yeah, what could I say?
Maybe to give people a better understanding of the city and where the city was at that stage at the time, and probably you could comment on that after we see it. Could we see video number 5 for maybe 3 minutes, 3 minutes 10? Now, that's some pretty disturbing footage, and what's even more disturbing is when you try to look for something to illustrate it, and you see the different levels of language that were used, and some of the stuff you can't, not even with what you're seeing, but with the way things get portrayed, it's almost unbearable to watch.
Yeah. What the newsman forgot to tell you was for 20 years before that, the police had just been catching people at random and beating their ass. People got tired of it. You have to live in a certain area. You can't go here, you can't go there. I was 6 or 7 years old when that happened, and I remember the tanks and the soldiers, and I was playing with the soldiers' bayonet and all that shit. But yeah, the news, it's the same news you get now from Detroit. Shootings, stabbings, blah, blah, blah. They forget to tell you the good part. It was a black shop owner on there. It's two sides to every story. It's a black shop owner on there. It's people that actually got jobs. It's people that pay taxes. It's people that is intelligent. It's people that know what classical art is. It ain't a town full of monkeys that just tear up shit. And that's the description you just saw. It's the same shit we watch on TV every night on Fox News. Every night, how many people got killed in Detroit and the dumb shit they got killed over. That's what, you know, nothing has changed. And part of what I was doing me and Jeff was doing with Underground Resistance was to paint a different picture, paint a picture of dreams of hope and futurism. And that's, you know, the one part that the brother said about there's some cats that just don't care, that was true. When my man said that, he said they don't care about race, religion, nothing, just getting what they got to get. Now that is true, but you hear that in all the rap lyrics. It's pretty common across urban America, so it can't be just a Detroit problem. It's a U.S. problem, you know, and you can imagine some guy that's supposed to go to Vietnam and go fight and kill some other people about some shit he don't even know about, but after something like this happened, because they did draft people after that happened. They did draft them, and they sent them over there to kill some other people that probably just wanted their way of life. You see what I'm saying? So it's a very ironic place to live in, and I think in our current situation, I think you all understand what I'm talking about when you see what's happening right now. It's always been there. It's always been there, lurking around. But, you know, there's good people as well, you know. And if you want to paint a picture, one-sided picture, own a news station, own a radio station, own a record company. You know, you guys are getting 1/10 of what we're capable of musically. And that's what you are was about, to illustrate that we do have a future. We do think. We do want to do better. Okay, so.
Yeah, I know that you don't want to talk too much about this, but that's why I'm telling it now. When I came to Detroit first time and I saw what they're doing there, it was something very special, and for me, that dangerous city like I've never seen before until then. And they were, Mike and Jeff and you are creating an own space with the label, the distribution. They had the meeting point for the musicians there. People came, talk, and they helped each other out and started labels, created jobs, and had other people also following up. So also 430 West, Lenny and Lawrence Byrne, that's something I remember now. Many more also started their own labels, and they are also still around. So that's something very important that should not be forgotten in the report of Detroit these days, too.
And I mean, it transcended beyond that. I remember Digo and all the Reinforced crew when they first went to see Detroit, and they were like, oh, so what do the rest of us need to know about that camp? Because you were not doing any PR or whatever. It's like, all you gotta know, them's brothers for real. Yeah, that was Digo's words at that time. And
yeah, Digo and them hung out with me. We went to the Brass Key Lounge. It's a stripper club. And they was really enjoying the bass, you know, because they dropped Detroit electro and Miami bass, and they mixed it together, and they loved it. And they used to be a group called Mannix, and they was on Kevin Saunderson's label. And they went there. They was young, and I took them around and showed them some sights, you know. And they had a good time running around with me at night in Detroit. And just like Mark Onestis did. I got to mention, there's two people that's not here that I wish was here. One guy is here. He's lurking about. He always lurks. And he's lurking in here somewhere. But he also was critical in the Detroit-Berlin connection. And the other guy you might know, Jeff Mills, my old buddy from Detroit. And to me, one of the best DJs in the world, bar none. I mean, he kept me from trying to DJ. I figured ain't no sense in me trying to DJ. I can never be this tight. This dude is tight. So as well, I think you should also imagine Mark Onestis' Hard Wax record, Esco, the whole Hard Wax crew, and Jeff Mills sitting here too. They just can't be here right now. And this is a rare opportunity that I come, and it's happened to happen in Berlin. And it's rare that, and I thank Torsten and all the guys, Manny and all them for cooking it up, that we could come and explain to you guys, you know, just what you can do with your music. Because if you figure if we made it through that, you can do some tremendous things too for your own city, for your own town. Because Berlin obviously flowered from the music, and then only Berlin has come back to help flower Detroit. I've been trying for years. Most of my friends is over here DJing. A lot of them in Europe. Some of them deserve to be here. Others just choose not to live in that shit. Okay? So, but guess what? We get so many visitors from all around the world come to our little shop, sign a wall, spread some love. Some of them even stay. So the city is kind of getting these weird people from around the world moving there, and that's kind of cool to me. So it's a little love coming back. Dimitri's trying to, you know, you want to talk about irony. We got Detroit, Techno City. We got no techno club. We got a piece of a club here, a piece of something there, but they usually get shut down once the owners figure out they're making money. So Dimitri is trying to put an anchor down from Europe in the city to help so our DJs can stay home and have somewhere to DJ at. Feel me? So.
I guess that wasn't. Did you always feel welcome? Because there were rumors at that time when certain labels purchased an address in Detroit just to get a Detroit postcode on the records.
Oh yeah, that's still going on. It's all kind of. They won't stand up in my face and say Detroit nothing, because I know they fakes. You know, fraudulent, imposters. You know, we could just go on and on, but they know who they are. They didn't live my experience, you know. And certainly, I'm the kind of guy, I didn't never feel like I was in a bad place until I got overseas, like, well, damn, you know, that's a nice city. Oh, this is a nice city. This is a nice city. What's that woman doing walking along? You know, it was a trip. It was a trip. You really don't realize how cheated you get. You know, like when my man told me in Spanish, he said, if y'all can count to 10, you get an A. If you count to 5, you get a B. And if you can't pass that, you're just going to sign up for the military. So I counted to 10, I got A. You know, they didn't have high expectations for us. And that's what happens when you get a corporate control, and corporations control life things. And the corporation, if they make Red Bull, they good at it. If they make a car, they make a good or a bad car. You decide. But they shouldn't control art, and they shouldn't control cities and infrastructures. You know, we got a city where the school curriculum is dictated by corporations. We need auto workers, teach them how to make cars. That was the expectation of our school curriculum.
Which is probably one of the ironic things about the pretty, on average to the rest of the states, high level of African American education that people like Ford and so on, despite their bizarre worldviews, thought like, okay, if we educate certain people, they will become better workers.
Yeah. The auto companies, they did. My grandfather came up and worked at Ford. And they figured they can build a car. They ought to be smart enough to build a car. And it was way beyond that. I mean, if y'all want to see some art, you want to see some art, come see some of our cars. We got some bad shit rolling around there, okay? That's what art is perceived as. It's mechanical. If you haven't been taught classical European art ever, well, what the fuck is a Renoir? What's a Rembrandt? I don't care about that shit. But you let the right car roll up with some classic good work, like this back end of this turntable, that's what we look at as art, a lot of us. Now, there's people there that do understand art. We do have art museums, we have culture, okay? But average guys I know, they recognize art through mechanical ability. And it's something to be thought about. You know, you get a lot of high-end, upper crust people, and they judge art by what they were brought up on. You know, most of you got builders or somebody in your family that built something. Also, those guys are looked up to in the community too as skilled people. So we do got a lot of pride in the skill in our building work. And you got to come there to see it.
Do you think that engineers are not getting enough credit for their creative artfulness?
Yes. If you look at engineering and you really look at it, it's art. It takes a knowledge of the now and what can be. And it's just like with you guys as budding music people. You have to have knowledge of the now, where this music. If you don't know where this music come from, what you doing? You know, what are you doing? Do some research. Do some research. Look into some things. You can't go into the future without a good foundation, because you can't launch your rocket. If your rocket just tips over the pad, in other words, if you don't got no foundation in what you're doing, you might not know what you're doing. That might be a good thing, but usually it's a disaster. You know, you should know some things, and that's what the people are sitting up here on the couch for. You should know why you want to come to Berlin. All y'all want to come to Berlin, you should know why. It's because some older cats realize that there's potential, and that's a key word of this discussion. There's potential in what you can do. You can get rid of these corporate assholes. You can get rid of the right wing. You can get rid of a lot of things. You ain't got to talk, protest, or nothing. Just be independent, keep doing your sound, and people will hear it. That's how this city changed, because he believed in a sound. He wanted a sound that could unify people from two completely different things. He's trying to explain it to us, and we're like, man, I don't know what you're talking about. But he found the right guys, because we wasn't scared to go to East Berlin. We wasn't scared of nothing, because that's what we come through. None of them guys in Detroit are scared of much, if they're really from Detroit, okay?
So in order to understand how you guys got together, it's probably important to understand how you two met first.
Do you remember?
Yes, you knocked at the door, I think in the morning, 10 o'clock, because I was in an interview, and it was just how to start a label, you know, from a youth radio station. And we were into it to start something very small, you know, West Berlin. No idea how it works, you know. And I think, Carola, I remember that you knocked at the door and said, I'm ready to support this mission.
No, I was studying, and I met you because we did a test feature in university for radio. So we needed to find somebody to talk to, an interesting subject, blah, blah, blah. And that's when he and his partner were about to start. So that's how we met. We did this interview, we did this feature, test feature that was broadcasted then in the end. And then the other time in the bar, when we met again, you said, why don't you come and become our secretary? And nobody knows why that happened, why he asked. They just... And I said, yeah, klar, of course, let's try that. So I started being a secretary on the typing machine for what we all didn't know was supposed to be done.
Yeah, back in the days, you know, we had in Berlin. Berlin had an own music, I must say. I came with a 4/4 beat to Berlin, but we had different sounds, you know. It was like these people, I was really surprised they could not even play an instrument, you know. They called it the genius dilettantes, you know. They made noises, you know. But this was very special for Berlin. Their music described the city, you know. And I was a curious person, I'm still, but I wanted to get in touch with them. And so I said, what about doing a festival? We called it finally Berlin Atonal, and then we started the festival. And so I got into the music again in this kind of, it was a festival, a new format for new sounds and for new ways also in filming, you know, things. So John Peel, maybe some of you remember John Peel, the British DJ, radio DJ, supported it worldwide, and I was completely surprised. It was sold out 3 days, SO36, 82. And then we went on, and I found more interest in this music, and there was one brand I picked up from Sheffield, you know, our Clock DVA.
Clock DVA.
Yeah. They came up with a Mac 2000 and were quite sophisticated. Sheffield is a city in England where all these big names, the electro bands came, Cabaret Voltaire, Human League, and Heaven 17 and others, and even also Clock DVA. So we signed it, we made this record happen, and through our independent distribution, EFA, they had partner in Chicago, Wax Strikes, and they like to release it in the US, the Clock DVA. And I was curious to see Chicago for the first time. I said, can I come and check it out? He said, come over. And when I was there, you know, in this office, like this office, he had a bucket full of tapes he didn't like, you know, and told said, Dimitri, Jim Nash was the owner, he died recently. He said, Dimitri, take anything you want, we don't take this. So I grabbed like a lottery box, you know, took one thing out, and I listened to it, and there was this phone number, 313. I called it from Chicago, and on the other line was this group with Jeff Mills, you know. And I said, I'm interested, I'm from Germany, and I like your music, are you into it? And he said, yes, do it. And we released it in, I don't know, 88 or 87. And so we were in touch with Detroit, you know, first time. And already in 89, the fall of the wall happened. But I must also say, nobody was interested in this music here, you know. We had a hard time to bring records and CDs to record stores, and can you take some? And so it was a hard, strong survive. But in 1990, we did the last tonal I managed was I brought Clock TVA over to Berlin, and also the project was Jeff Final Cut. So that was the first visit of Jeff in Berlin, you know. We had no hotel rooms, and so, you know, we're sleeping in the ground. We had a data club with a sleeping bag, and so it was, you know, it was real underground. But a year later already, we stayed in touch, and Carola was always in between, you know, kept the red telephone to Detroit. No iPhone, no internet, you know. Maybe the fax machine, if it worked, you know, so we got new information. But 1 year later, like in March 13th, we started the venue, the Tresor Club, you know, and Jeff and Mike and Robert did the UARP concept. It was new, you know, it was not, we were not informed like daily news came over, you know, all 2 months and news, you know, we do this underground resistance project, and that was a perfect timing, you know, and you must understand Berlin was anyway in those days a special situation because of the fall of the wall. And Carola, you can say you were in New York on this seminar when you brought this holy cassette with this track Sonic Destroyer.
Was it a holy cassette? It was in 91, and I was in the US for doing the after university drive for 6 weeks, and then I ended up in New York. I fell in love with New York, so I came back and asked them and told them that I should go to the new music seminar, because it's really important for the future of the music and the label, because I wanted to go back. And this is where I met Underground Resistance and the whole crew, and they were just ready to conquer the world with their sound. That was the statement. And so it's important to know also that, of course, there's some parallel lines in the development. For us, we discussed it earlier, it seems to be that there's years in between, but it was not. It was sometimes weeks or months. And also the parallel lines are important, because at the same time, there was Hardworks record store in Berlin that still an important store for the music that was out, because he bought them, they bought it, they sold it again, so that's Multiplikatoren, I don't know how to say that in English now. And they were also looking for the DJs who were able to perform the music for Berlin. So at the same time, they were checking if, I think it was Blake, to Damon Booker to come over to present the music they imparted. And we were doing the same thing pretty much then for the club, because they found the space and the club was about to open, so we needed music too. So that's also this kind of parallel snowball.
But by then you already had a different role, I guess. I mean, earlier I was thinking, hang on, secretary, that doesn't sound too punk rock for a punk rock label, but that sounds a lot more like the person running the label.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I started. That's what the boss is like, you know, you have the woman that is typing there. But then it all happened, and then everybody had to step out and do something. It was not that you're the head of this or head of this. We were 3 people, so we just started to check what's possible. And then also by accident. I didn't know that I would meet them there in New York, and they would be ready. And then it was all fitting.
I must give credits also to Hardworks. They took over the bookings for us because they were in touch with all these labels through Mike and so many new artists. It was a lucky moment, you know, that we had real serious help from Hardwax regarding the booking. But I must also say, in those days, you know, we had really no idea if this music would take off or would work, you know. We thought maybe it's like a trend, like punk comes in, gets out, like jungle comes. We had no idea. For instance, the Tresor Club, we made a contract just for 3 months, you know. Who makes a contract for 3 months? So I said, okay, maybe we have at least 10 shows and maybe we see what's going on. And I think the atmosphere, we took much more risk and we had a lot of passion, you know. And I also remember when the cats came over from the US, some of them did not know where are we now, you know, or in the East or the West, where are the Nazis, you know. It was a very interesting moment, a historical moment also, because this techno thing was a common subject for kids from the east part of the city and the west part. Both discovered it. It was not somebody like me or anybody says this is what you have to eat. They liked it, you know, but mainly, in my perception, is it did also this success depend on the spaces we could use, you know. The darkness, the dark rooms were very important. To meet in dark rooms and not to leave at 1 o'clock in the morning. We could stay there forever. This was a great freedom, a great feeling of freedom and of a new beginning. And then Dr. Morty and the Love Parade came also. So that was
Before we get there, maybe so people get a bit more of a sonic idea, Callum was so kind and put together the transition of Jeff's first project into UR, and I guess you guys released both of those things, at least over here in Germany. And let's probably listen to that for a second.
I remember when this tape came on, and I played it to friends, and in the night in another club, the E-Work, you know, we were very, very excited, and I met Daniel Miller, you know, from Mute Records. I played it to him close to the toilet, you know, listen to this on a Walkman, and he was excited, and I said, Dimitri, you must wait with the release, you know. We were very, very excited, and this song became a big smash hit, you know. In all clubs it has been played, and it started something new. Because I think we released it in September, we opened in March 91, and we released it in September 91. Even a boulevard press came up, I never forget, like the Sun, you know, and that young journalist, he was so amazed about this record. He said, can we do an extra issue of 100 white copies, you know? In white vinyl, and we made Heaven. It was great, and so everybody was in this fever, you know, and this was really a new beginning of music, and also this music brought the people really together. It has been played in all venues, in the Love Parade, in all the clubs. And I must say today, you know, 25 years later, or 28 years later, 30 years later, an evergreen, you know. It's still good, you know, despite all new technology.
I mean, the song is called, or the track is called Sonic Destroyer, and it still has a little bit of sonic energy in it that translates now. Can you remember, you went to Mayday 1, right? Mayday 1, the rave?
I don't remember. Okay, I can't remember, man. I might have went to Mayday 1, but I know when we kicked that off, just like the other night, 2 weeks ago when we kicked it off, them boys still remembered it. You know, whoever was behind us was in trouble. But the song was to rip off the head of any DJ in front of Jeff, because they would always try to, you know, out-spin him. So it was to destroy the DJ, also destroy record companies, corporations, anything we felt that was trying to get a hold of us. And I should point out that we had released a record on UR. That was UR 013.5. And we had been selling records to Hardwax a lot. You know, that was my first guy, was Mark Ernestus, Hardwax. And we had been selling quite a few records back and forth.
Jeff was a radio DJ. Jeff was, they was putting a lockdown on Jeff about playing Public Enemy. He was getting pissed off. I was a session guy, just like I do sessions for y'all. And that's how me and Jeff met. And I worked on that first track, I Told You Not to Stop. That was, we got the sample from Apocalypse Now, where my man said, I told you not to stop, let's go. And they shot up the whole boat full of people. And we, the next track was Sonic Destroyer. That's an Oberheim, OBXA, doing that, all the voices of it. And DX100 on the bass, digital, you know, Yamaha. So for you guys that into synths, that was a power combo. But it really, the reason we went with Dimitri was because we trusted Mark. Mark was saying that Dimitri was good people, and Mark was reiterating it. You know, Mark came over to Detroit. He was the first one I saw. And me and him hung out, and we became fast friends, and we still partners to this day. Mark's only concern is the record, the heat, you know, will it, you know. Mark's a little bit of a hustler, you know. It'll sell, Mike, it'll move. This one might not, this one will. You know, he's a business owner, so he came over. We did a lot of good business together. We had a lot of good times running around Detroit at night and laughing and joking, but we built a trust. Jeff had worked, I worked with Mark, Jeff kind of worked with Dimitri, and then me and Carola over the facts. So there was a trust building, but what we did know with this techno stuff, we saw how London was just way too fast for us. We couldn't keep up with London. London was vicious, man. You know, so the guys would come back, Juan and Derek and Kevin, and tell us all the London stories, and I had heard enough. I was like, well, you know, U.S. radio, you might ask yourself, well, why didn't none of this techno music go off in the U.S.? And you got to think about it. None of the European labels had the money to play the U.S. game. And truly, the hip-hop had bumped us off. It was just so powerful. The hip-hop was just killing the game. And that's what really pissed Jeff off, because they wouldn't let him play Public Enemy. He's on the main radio station in an all mostly black city, Latinos and Arabs, and we can't hear Public Enemy. So Jeff smelled a rat. I already knew it from doing sessions that it was fraudulent. The whole major business, I tell them right now, it's a fake. Y'all listening to fake shit. You listening to 1/10 of what music could be. Your heroes it's just bullshit. It's so much production, guys like Just Blaze and Ango and all these people back there working behind this artist. Some of the artists, this many of them, truly talented. Most of them is frauds. And they just build them up, just like a lot of these DJs out here, like my man from PCP was telling you. They're frauds. They build them up, they get publicity agents, they pay them $10,000 a month. Anybody could be a top DJ. Don't believe that shit. You need to make your own shit, put it in your own city, make your own club, put your own records out, and somebody will come to it. You gotta have faith. And that's what I see. All y'all moving to Berlin, it's too late. Berlin already did it. You need to go somewhere, Warsaw, Poland, or Brisbane, Australia. Take your ass there and start something. You know, it's down. You know, they got it. You can pay $5, come on in the club. They got you. You know, what you looking for here, it might not be here. You need to do something else. So, you know, I've been listening to y'all dreams and stuff, and, you know, you come back to Detroit, you see what that music could do for your own city. We ain't the best in the world, but I tell you what, we got a lot of beautiful moments, and it covers up all that, what they showed right there, covers it up like nothing. I feel rich. I got friends, food, and music, just like you got here. And when you leave the Red Bull, guess what you're gonna take with you? Not your track for your EP or you're gonna take 30 friends from all around the world that you're gonna be friends with forever. So I don't even know if the corporation know that happens, but I think they do. I think they do, okay? You may hear whatever you hear, but If it's 30 friends from around the world, that kind of refutes the norm. Okay, so you gotta look at shit a little deeper. I do. Plus, I'm an infiltrator. I don't care who give me the mic. If I can tell y'all, stay independent, do your own shit, start your own distributions, compete with Mike, come to Detroit, I'll teach you how to do that too. We destroy bullshit. That's what, when y'all down in them clubs dancing and it's gay people and drag queens and nerds and everybody together, that destroys order. It destroys it. They don't know how to manage the shit. They trying to get you under control. And if you keep listening to the radio, you can come to Detroit and see a whole bunch of programmed mugs. They program for violence and fuck you. That's pretty much it, man. You know, and that shit is it ain't like what they got here. You know, I watched my city de-evolve into, we used to think David Bowie was cool. Yeah, Edgar Winter, Geno Socio, Marauder. We had all kind of different color heroes. George Clinton, Sun Ra, Gil Scott-Heron. We had so much diversity in the radio, it was reflecting in the city. That's where Detroit techno really come from diverse radio. Good TV program. Y'all keep supporting this bullshit, and you gonna see, you won't ask how it is to live in Detroit. You gonna be living in it. Trust me, you're gonna be living in it. Some motherfucker gonna put a hat on you and tell you, shoot this guy right here. So we don't like it, okay? And you won't even ask the question, just do it. So if you get programmed, that's on you. I come from a city that wasn't programmed. Now I live in a city that's programmed. It's tough to watch the kids on their way to prison, to the hotel. It's really tough. I try to tell them, I was like, brother, you headed the wrong way. But you know, hard head make a soft ass. So, you know, I can't save them all. And I do care about y'all.
Word. In order to introduce video number 7, maybe you can tell a little bit about the power that music and radio can have if we listen to Rock Lobster.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can personally tell you that this song right here, y'all ain't gonna believe it, but we had a lot of gangs in Detroit, and guys was gang banging, and Mojo would play this next song, and before he would play it, he'd say, now the shot will be fired the next hour. Now the shot will be fired in anger or hate in this next hour. Prepare yourselves and take a ride to Planet Claire. And here you go. You're supposed to drop it right there. I had set it up.
Well, I heard the story mildly different, but with Rock Lobster. But it sounds like a pretty good Mojo rendition anyway.
Okay.
Who's the Mojo anyway?
Well, Mojo, electrifying Mojo is like Bruce Lee's teacher. He's like the Shaolin, the head monk of the city. He was our spiritual guide. He was our musical guide. He was our diversity clerk. He was the guy that educated us through our ears and through rhythms and textures and music. And he had a big gumbo pot full of music from all around the world. And I think our market was so abandoned, I don't think the major record companies cared what Detroit listened to. So, I mean, the DJs pretty much could go at it however they wanted. And they played what people needed, not what they was told to play. They played what we needed. And it really, really made for a more tolerant city. Yeah, we was broke, but we was progressive as hell. I think we was 30 years ahead of the rest of the world. By this one DJs, well, it was him, Jeff Mills, Alan Olam, DJ T1000, and a few other DJs that really, the spirit was, man, I'm about to drop some new stuff. Check this out. And guess what? We had import records coming in. We don't have imports now. Y'all better watch it in America. We don't have nothing from Europe coming over there. You gotta go to the suburbs to get something from Europe. We used to have imports. Think about this. Nobody in Berlin sends us no records. We get them from Hardwax. It's like we smart enough to make the music, but too dumb to listen to it. Nobody markets their music at Detroit. Okay, that's an irony like a mug. You know, we don't have no modular store in Detroit, but Techno comes from there. We don't have an Ableton store in Detroit, but Techno comes from there. Okay, so they looked at us the same way with music, like whatever. I ain't spending no money in there. And so guess what? We got some of the best independent, crazy music in the world. And this track here literally ended gang fighting. Because once you go Rock Lobster and you put your hat on and do the Rock Lobster, you really can't be too tough anyway, man. Guys be like, hey, man, what's up with that Rock Lobster, man? You're like, dog, that's what's happening. The women like it. Fuck you, you know? I'm down with them, you know? I ain't going with your ass. You know, that's how it was. Cats went, and it was the new wave, and it was cool, and you could come to school and look crazy as hell and not get your ass beat. And I think that was a great time, and I'm glad I lived through it. But that's how, you know, you can't imagine. I mean, I know they don't paint that picture of Detroit, but you can't imagine that, right, you know, getting played. But it was one of the hottest records there, so we was really wide open, and your radio stations in your countries and towns should be that wide open. If it ain't, you should complain and ask. All you guys got good music. It should all be on the radio. You know, a lot of y'all, everybody got good music, and you got no outlet. So the only place we could go was underground, and that's how all this happened over here. There was no way we was gonna get on the radio. And I don't know if you guys saw Christian Rich when they was here in the first term, but they do, and I'm sure Just Blaze could talk about it too. But you ain't got no money behind that record. You ain't getting on the big radio. You can forget it. Whoever want to be a pop star, you a popping fool. Some bullshit. It's some bullshit.
So you guys then got these tapes, and as you called it earlier, the holy tape. How do you turn the holy tape and make sure it gets to kids all across the world and turn the holy tape into an actual product and a cultural artifact?
Back in the days, that was quite a process. You got a DAT, pretty much. Then it had to go to the mastering plant for DAT. And then it was sent to the press plant, and then, vinyl is still on. So then the mother plates, father plates had to be pressed, and you got the white label, and you had to check the sound. They needed to approve the sound, so you needed to send the white label to the US by post. Well, it takes a little while too. Then they send a fax, everything fine, you can press. Then the pressing started, and you had to get the cover printed. Then the finished product and at the distribution, hopefully with no mistakes. And then from there on, the distribution people, label managers you had, started to offer to the stores that were buying those kind of music, and then they sold the record. And if you're lucky, you sold a few, then more, coming more and more. And that's how it went. And that's how the record ended up on the turntables of the consumer.
Yeah, and it was no big competition in those days, you know. Actually, there was no sound of Berlin. It didn't exist, people say this, but Detroit Techno really opened our ears and eyes, and it was a kick-off of something very special. And I remember when Juan came and stayed in Mark's house, and we did he worked in the reel-to-reel tapes in the night, you know. There was no digital editing also, you know. And then cut here, then duplicate the payés of the tape, and it was really handwork, you know. And and people bought records in those days, you know. It's a nice vinyl. We have changed. Everything has changed now.
But do you guys then while there was no sound of Berlin, started developing sounds of other cities as well. Let's say, I mean, Detroit, Brighton, to a degree.
I don't necessarily agree that there was no sound of Berlin. That there were people already coming also from the guitar music or crossover or industrial stuff, and started to do purely electronic music. They weren't so known yet, and then the Detroit techno came and proved to them that they should go on with what they were doing. And then pretty soon, also quite a hard way of techno came from Berlin people. So don't necessarily agree. It was there. No, it was there, but it was maybe hidden, still a little bit hidden. Okay, and Detroit made it coming out.
It's a different view. I mean, when Basic Channel started, that was for me a real value, you know, and that made electronic music rich. But most of the stuff back in the days was that people try to copy this or that.
Which had its own charm at times.
What?
Which had its own charm at times.
Yeah, but I mean, I didn't realize it so much. I didn't take it serious. So now it has changed. You know, the technology is here. Berlin is a city of techno. We have, as Mike said, Ableton. We have native instruments. We have incredible many clubs here. We have nighttime programs. We have the best bookings here every weekend. I think everybody's in town. It's a techno city. Techno is pop.
Which is kind of interesting, because at that time, I mean, you were pretty outspoken about it, and you, at least then, viciously hated pop music.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't hate it because of the artist. I mean, actually, I like Elton John, and I just say it like it is.
Big Aerosmith man as well.
Aerosmith, Led Zeppelin, all that. I like music, but I learned in the studios, and I hollered about Just Blaze, but I saw some of the dirtiest stuff being done. You know, they bring in 3 big old church girls to come sing something and say, hey, could you do a little dummy lead? And then, you know, the lady would do the lead, $50 or whatever. And then they'll bring in, you know, some girl to do 500 sit-ups a day and all that shit, and they'll bring her in there and have her try to mimic what the other woman had put down. And if she couldn't get it tight, they take a sampler and pitch her up and put her in tune. And of course, the big woman got $50 and the other girl is on the front cover of the album. And I started to learn from the asshole out of the industry that it was fraudulent. I was like, man, she didn't even sing that record. The other girl sang it. You know, so I knew better, and it was disappointing. Jeff was getting disappointed on the radio, so you had 2 guys that was, you know, we had dreams like kids too. We wanted to go out and be in a band and travel around the world and all that, but by me seeing that, I started to realize that, man, this is a fraud, this is terrible. And they would mail the tapes to Detroit because the Detroit session musicians was cost less money than LA or New York. So, you know, they get us for $100, $50. And in New York or LA, that same session, that guitar work or the keyboard work, it might be $1,800, $2,000 an hour. So, you know, like I said, you know, I know I can't blanket cover every artist. Like I like Childish Gambino and Kendrick Lamar. I'm just shocked they on the radio. I'm shocked at Chance the Rapper. And so maybe it's somebody out there thinking right, but y'all know what I'm talking about. This stuff is just so bubblegum, man, and cliche, man. It's just like a formula. They throwing formulas at you, man. And you do that shit with Tylenol or cough medicine. You don't do that with art. You can't make art into a formula, man. So, you know, that's what if we allow them to take the art, we're gonna be in some serious trouble as humanity. So, you know, I'm literally up here 35 years in this all we was trying to do with UArt is inspire creativity from other places, and we figured if enough of it went around the world, like what happened here in Berlin, it'll be a lot of nice cities to go to and hang out in all night. You know, at least you ain't got to sit up and just listen to bubblegum all day, man. So I can't do it, dog. My reality is not bubblegum. My shit is some used bubblegum on the bottom of my shoe. That's my reality, man. So just to show it nice bubblegum fresh in the package, it don't hit it for me, man. I need some real shit, like Alice in Chains or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
On that note, are you legally allowed these days to talk about what session work you were working on, or how did that actually work? Because I guess more people don't have a grasp of how that world actually works.
We were good musicians, and we would ask the studio owner, hey man, you know, if somebody needed guitar or bass or whatever. Amp Fiddler did it too. Amp Fiddler was one of the crew. And we hang out at big 24-track studios, and it was a way to, you know, make a little cheese using your skill, you know, better than doing evictions or standing up 30 stories in some building. If you fall, you're dead, you know. So I found it easier to do. And I also met a lot of great guys like, you know, Jeff Mills, Dwayne in the Mix, Bradley. I was starting to get on some serious records, you know, and that was cool. I met my studio guru, George Clinton, just sitting around like we do in the lunchroom when we talking. And he give me, you know, advice on how to separate the low end from the kick drum. I mean, the bass drum from the kick drum. Spatial.
Hang on, isn't that the eternal quest?
It's one of the battles of mixing, but I also was privileged to see tape looping, and Eric was back there showing the ladies tape looping, but I saw tape looping and didn't think nothing of it. And then, you know, you got whole industries based on that Detroit invention. George Clinton was a part of inventing tape looping. It was him, I believe Jim Vitti, engineer, but George Clinton did that. And for all the people that think George Clinton is kind of like a space cadet, no, he ain't. My man knows the mixing board, and he knows big mixing boards, the Neves, the SSL. He ain't no little guy when it comes to mixing. He knows this. He know what he doing. So and furthermore, he's very forthright about sharing. And so I figure if George Clinton could be a good guy, and Ralph Hutter, another very dear friend of mine, if Ralph Hutter from Kraftwerk can be a nice guy, I don't see why none of y'all got to take no shit from some of these bullshit DJs. I'm telling you, they ain't that big. They spinning other people's records. They a DJ. There's nothing wrong with being a DJ, but don't get out of place. Okay?
In order for some of these DJs to get where they are, they had to figure out how people get their things to sound a lot better. And I mean, earlier on you disclosed 2 or 3 machines that you were using. Like around the time of those releases, you were extremely protective of that. But you clouded it well. I mean, it added to the mystique. Yeah,
I mean, I was extremely protective against Europeans. I figured, shit, if they take your country, it wouldn't be nothing to take your track, you know? So I wouldn't let them nowhere near the studio, nor talk about what we use or allow none of my guys to do it. But, you know, I done traveled around the world a little bit now, and I know better. I know some good people, and I figured I'd share what I know. I can talk about machines that's 30 years old. That's no problem. I still got an edge. You know what I'm saying? I keep my secret weapons. But
and at the same time, sometimes it makes the people really happy, because in the case of Tom Oberheim, for example, who wasn't really aware that you guys even existed, and then he would know, oh, Jump is done on one of my machines, and when we played him like Sonic Destroyer, he was like, oh, those kids are doing that? Yeah. Well, they're not kids anymore, but yeah.
Well, you know, my biggest thing with gear is that some people just get way over analog, and we use DX100s, DX27s, Casio CZ1. We pretty much use whatever we could get our hands on. Everything was discarded technology. When the DX7 came, that made a lot of the big boys, the big 8-voice synths available to us.
How did you get a hold of a DX7?
Oh, I didn't get a DX7. I was just glad it got made. I got a hold of some of my other keyboards with.
Wasn't there some church involved somewhere?
Yeah, but I don't want to talk about that.
Huh. Yeah. We can't talk about church anymore?
Yeah, I got some friends, and they love, one of my friends is like an Oberheim freak, kind of like, if he was here, he'd be at Snyder's trying to figure out how to get the modular out the front door without being seen. He was
doesn't
just
sound too churchy.
Yeah, he was something else, but Yeah, no, digital technology was also a part of Detroit Techno. I don't think Derek may would mind, but the Mirage sampler, the Ensoniq ESQ1, these type of board, we pretty much used whatever we could get. And the keyboards, it was all pawn shop gear, mostly pawn shop or, you know, Craigslist type of stuff that you would get, or other ways. So evictions, stuff like that. It's a good job to have when you need gear. But, you know, gear to me, it don't matter. Me and my girl from Korea, we was working last night. We threw up a couple of pieces and got on with it. You don't need a lot of gear. You need a lot of heart. You need a lot of thinking. You need a lot of love. You need a lot of passion in your shit. You know, you just can't study all that stuff's too slow. It's too slow. Nothing can beat them. Computers can't beat me, man. They too slow. I think people, if they came to the jam room, you could see it. It's the techno is coming out like that. It's up to the recorder to catch it. It just comes out. It come through, and you do it, and it's not thought about. It's just felt. And I think a lot of the best records, some ones from Chicago, Detroit, even the new ones that get made. Like if you notice my man from PCP, he was just like, yeah, just do it, bang. That's guys that make tracks tend to be like that. They're not gonna overthink, and probably a lot of them ain't got a lot to think with anyway. So it ain't a lot to do but make the track. You know, they God blessed them with what they got, and like me too. You know, it ain't like I'm no damn Beethoven or something. You know, it's just get it done, knock it down, and capture the moment. That was always what I tell y'all all the time, catch the moment.
So with this competitiveness, how did you guys feel when you all of a sudden had to somehow deal with that in an everyday life, in an everyday working life? Did you feel like you were competitively kept out and only let in to a certain degree, or how did you manage that?
In what level? Now, labor work.
For example, yeah.
Naja.
We're talking about between us.
Competition between us.
No,
I'm lost now.
No, I mean, earlier Mike was saying they were at least suspicious of the European interest, and
I mean, our opinion was pretty, then referring to pretty hippie. We were there, and there was new music, and we thought this is a new movement, and this is a worldwide movement without the communication skills or techniques that are there now, and we just wanted that as global and equal, and no VIPs, and no VIP rooms in the club. And so I think we didn't see it so much as competition between us.
I could tell they was good people. I just went with my heart. Jeff felt the same way, and we felt the same way about Mark Ernestus. And as y'all can see, these are people who's the pillars of Berlin, the Berlin electronic scene. And there's many others that just not here, but something about them was good. It was, we had been approached by people from Holland, people from England, and they just talked it was too fast. It was just, I wasn't feeling them. And I felt like if we was gonna give one of our records up, I wanted Jeff to get out here and crush, because I like competing. And I knew Jeff, and I still say this, y'all can put whatever DJ you wanna get, whoever making all this big money. You put the wizard up there, he will bust their ass, guaranteed. They don't know nothing about no records. They can talk all the shit they want up here, but my man is good. When you go see him DJ, that's the real DJ. Derek, them guys DJ. Some of them boys in Chicago, and I'm not knocking none of these guys. Some of the DJs that came up here, what's my man, Dixon, when he was telling y'all about being tired and working it, that man was telling you right. It ain't easy, you know, and I could feel his frustration. But it's many, many frauds out here. Y'all need to look into some of these people. I'm from Detroit. Are you really from Detroit? How many records you got out? What records do you have out? Damn, you don't have no records out. You just came to Berlin and said, yeah, I know Mike and Jeff. A lot of people know us. They come to the record store. That don't mean they down with me, you know? So I'm just saying, be careful about all this worshiping DJs. At Detroit, you do good, you do a good job. I seen Jeff in clubs where the man bring the record and say, hey, yo, bro, play this. Me and my wife got married to it. And he better play it right. Because that's like the biggest drug dealer in the city right there. So it's like spin or get fucked up, for real. And Jeff will lay it down. You know what I'm saying? No fear. So, I mean, they've DJ'd under way different conditions. So I'm just saying, man, y'all should be careful about cats with. If you want to see a real DJ, I'm going to tell you what a real DJ can do. They can mix 2 live drummers together. Live drummer on this deck, live drummer on that deck, and ride them. Now, you see somebody do that, give them the thumbs up. I guarantee you 95% of them guys can't do it. Y'all don't even know what I'm talking about, but anyway.
Well,
old school know what I'm talking about.
You also had had another little asset to throw in the competitiveness with other labels from other countries. You had the venues.
Yes, yes, venues play a very important role, you know, and I think Techno would have had this success in Berlin if the venues would have not been here. And the reason why Berlin has so many venues is we had a strong bombardment, you know, in the Second World War. So we had a lot of niches, you know. It's not, you won't find them in London or in Paris, you know. And then we had the wall. And when the wall fell down and the parade started and this euphoria, you know, was there. The euphoria to start something and how the question how to celebrate this new freedom. So in this moment, Techno hit Berlin, you know, and talked to Mike, man, the kids from the East wait for something, please come over, you know. We don't know if it works, but it worked out. We did not know this. We did not know that Techno had this strong influence on Berlin's urban development, you know. So because Techno changed the city, you know, this model of, we have seen in Berlin that maybe 5 years after the wall was open, there was still no police control, so you had the feeling you could start an experiment, and I must say many people started an experiment, not just the club, it was also maybe a gallery or a cafe, you know, because there was nobody who said, you can't do this. It was very weak, you know. I mean, you tried something out, and maybe after 2 years, oh no, it's not my thing, or it is my thing, and you all together gave the city a direction, and the direction was culture, you know. Now, today, in the year 2018, it became a strong economic force, you know. Berlin without this nighttime and Techno is guilty on everything, you know. You, Mike, your friend. But when this came over, it influenced other things, you know. Other business came over, like the hostels came up. We have now 60,000 beds. EasyJet came over, you know, and brings every weekend 10,000 people who want to try something out, you know. They say there in Berlin is something we do not have in our own city. Let's check it out, you know. And everybody brings at least one idea. So we have a creative atmosphere in Berlin. And I mean, I don't know where you will go, you know, after all this nice 2 weeks or 4 weeks. You should take something home, you know, and you should start your own scene, you know, build it up there, you know. Don't come to Berlin. It's fully booked, you know, and it's better you find your own way, you know. And
well, hey, Dimitri, maybe you should tell them about what you want to try to start.
Yeah.
The foundation.
Yeah, we want to do, Mike and me, we talked since a while about an idea. Because if we gone maybe one day, what about our dreams and our philosophy, you know? So we think about to start a foundation, maybe the Underground Resistance Foundation. It should work somehow. Let's think big, you know, like Greenpeace, you know. It's about spaces, you know. It's about people, about operators who want to do something and have this problem to own a space or have to give it up after 2 years, you know. It happened to me 3 times in my life. You build something up, then a landlord comes, fuck off, you know. Go away, close it down or so. So we think people really into this idea, you know, and risk and bring passion into a cultural mission, they should have a space. Doesn't matter where, in Scandinavia, in Africa, in Asia, and if they cannot afford it, it was in my case, they could ask our foundation, and we check it out and say, wow, your concept is great. We will buy this building, and you will give it to you for 100 years, for 3%, of the price. Just an example, 1 million, and you pay 30,000 a year, so that means 2.5 a month, and you find out, wow, I can bring my friends for studios, I can open a coffee shop, I can open a venue, and this is a plan we have in mind, and we will publish it soon. And how do we finance it? We think the values we have in our foundation are good values, It will keep this movement up, and we take properties out of the speculations, and gentrification. We think people who want to do something should own the building, So we think about a network worldwide so we can work together. Because what made Berlin really important also, and also Detroit, is this tiny place like submerged, where the people meet, You come to Detroit Metro and you don't know where to go. And there's only this one spot, the building of Euro. On Berlin, back in the days we had Tresor or something else. I was in Chile, or in Santiago de Chile, where we met Mike, and there was a big movement of techno, but when the clubs were gone, the DJs, Luciano and Ricardo, they all moved away. And now there's nothing, So the clubs keep this movement alive, and that's why we want to do this foundation, to keep cultural venues alive, to make cultural venues. And some of you might be not musicians, maybe they're more, let's say, kind of a promoter, operator, That is important too, because it's not just the music, you're right. It is also the party, the place where the community comes together, the dark rooms, the no curfew, and you have party all night long. It's very important because new ideas get born, and you get together with people, and it's about sharing ideas, it's about interacting each other, It's a social thing. And I think this foundation will keep you informed. And when you go back, stay in touch through the net with us, you will hear about it and join us, We will ask people to donate something, even if it is a song or so. This is the way how we think that it will survive. We ask even Red Bull, maybe, or a company, or Jeff, because this idea should keep on living, It's not me or Mike or anybody. It is this great philosophy to live together, because I'm 100% convinced that everybody sitting here is a member of or participates in a big movement, in a peace movement, It's the idea, it's an investment in global peace.
To illustrate that, maybe video number 1. You can applaud if you want, but I guess all these things do not require any major funds from any state institution, any brand, or any benefactor with questionable sources of income. A lot of those things, all they require is an open heart and a willingness to actually invest time and get together with a person that's probably closer to you than you think. So there's definitely a lot of food for thought there. How does that tie in with another initiative you working on called Happy Locals?
Yes, the Happy Locals, how to build a community, like this movie you just saw, is an initiative how to keep young people in the countryside, in small cities, We said already, we don't want that you all move to Berlin or somewhere. You should stay in your small city. And what we do, or what my experience was after now 30 years after the fall of the wall, is give young people space and let it be, and say yes. This is a message I tell mayors in small cities, because the problem we have in Berlin, in Germany now, young people if they don't find any platform where they can express themselves when they're 15, 16, 17, 18. They wait till they're 18 and then they move. They move to Berlin, and it's sometimes very tragic because in Berlin they don't find this job. They end up as taxi driver because they wanted to change the world with all their power, and they need it at the home city. So we try, tell the mayors and the administration, keep these people in your home and give them a space in self-administration, you know. Say yes and give them a job. Maybe it's only, sometimes this potential is maybe one person or two persons, but they run it, and then they start an independent small movement, you know. This was the reason, this is why Berlin became so popular, because there was not this big control, you know, by authorities. We could do what we wanted to do, and this is, we're working for. It's called happylocals.org, you find it out. And it makes young people happy, and it's also about identification, you know. If you grow up in a city and there's nothing going on, you just wait, you go back. You don't come back, you know. You go to a bigger city, and the problem that this vacuum, if all these open-minded people move away, the problem is that the right-wing mainstream comes up, is rising, taking this vacuum, you know, and starts trouble. So I think culture is also a tool, you know, a weapon against this movement, and this is why I really support this.
I keep my fingers very crossed for this.
Oh, thank you.
And also because that, you know, when you said before that you didn't want to leave your hometown, and you had to, so hopefully there is a chance that a lot of people can stay then these days and not have to leave because of that happy holidays.
No. There's that, and I think it's probably not to be taken in an offensive way when you saying stay where, don't come to Berlin, because I guess a lot of people had to go to a different place, but that means don't forget where you come from. You're always free to go back once a month, invest where you are, and if you make any surplus, invest that into local structure and make sure that, I don't know, if there's one kid that's sat like you on a school bus with you are on a headphones and PE or whatever, and there's another kid now 20, 30 years later that will probably get that same spark, you already did something good.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say that so sharp that don't come to Berlin or stay in your village. It's always a matter of where you meet people that are same state of mind, where you feel comfortable with, and where you feel a certain energy and power. Maybe that sounds really emotional now, but that's how I think. And if you're with the right people, then you move something, you can move something. Even if you don't know the direction yet when you sit together. But something will happen with the art and the music you do then. And that's pretty much free where that could happen. And these days we have a way better way of communication where you can also talk to people in the city or in the village all the time, depending on where you are. So I guess it's pretty open.
On the note of meeting people, I would like to play a bit of music and have all three of you think about how you met that person first, and then probably tell those stories right after. So, Trexia, Aquawarm, who wants to go first?
Well, I will. I mean, yeah, that's James and company and Drexia. And I met him. Derek May called me and said, hey, man, go get your thing, man. Some guys in my house, they're crazy as hell. And one of them was saluting every time the record would come on, and the other one was playing with Derek's knives or something crazy. And Derek was real worried about him. It was just like all the guys would say, oh, you need to be on UR. You know, let me call Mike. And, you know, because people come up and audition music, and Derek and Kevin and Juan be like, hey, man, you need to go over there with Mike, you know. Because I like, you know, weird music and stuff. So, not that they don't, but if it's especially strange, and I feel like they are a part of urban reality, because they had a hell of a fantasy there, because I don't think none of them seen the ocean ever. And so I said, okay, well, fellas, let's hear the tracks. And when they played them, it was, everything was on 4-track, and everything was like 2 minutes or barely over a minute and 30 seconds long sometimes, and they needed edits. It didn't really need mixing. It just needed edits so a DJ could use it sometimes, because they weren't aware of, fading in on the record or any of that kind of stuff. They just did them. But yeah, me and James Stinson became fast friends, as did me and Gerald Donald and Dennis Richardson, I should name him, and Tyree, James' brother, who's not available right now. But we, James, me and him really became friends, and I decided to start. I thought the music needed to be out. That's how I felt. I didn't know what would happen with it. We pressed them up. We sent them out to the distributors and all that, and nobody wanted it. Nobody wanted Drexciya. Nobody. So I was like, okay, well, I got a record store. I said, I know Detroit will want it. It's electro, because Detroit love electro. So I just put it in the store. And yeah, all the Detroit DJs bought it up for about 2.5 years. And then a guy came from England. I remember him. His name was Ed DMX. And he heard it, and he just was jumping around. This is the bomb, blah, 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 blah. And he bought some copies. And then the next thing you know, the Aphex Twin record label was calling us. He had a record label called Reflex. And he was calling and, asking about Drexciya and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, they had a lot of stuff that was kind of like dreamy, like that. That one was kind of dreamy. I liked it, the hard stuff, of course, And I thought, okay, man, you want to license it or do something, man. James had a lot of kids. He got a lot of kids. So, I can't walk in his shoes. He needed some cheese. And the Reflex people was very, very nice, and I know they cared about it, the music. And so I kind of gave go ahead, do your thing. And he released the album with Reflex. And all of a sudden, all them records I had just started selling. Give me 2,000, give me 3,000. It was like I couldn't figure out what was going on. And I guess it was the fact that it was on Reflex. Same thing happened when Dimitri put it on Tresor. And I thought James had the potential to be a international artist, because he had a decent temperament. I can't send them all out here, because some of them boys, I wouldn't leave them alone with nobody's sister, man. But James was a good person, and I thought he had a chance at, traveling and seeing and doing like we had did. I thought he would be a good representative of black folks. He was even-keeled, he was smart, and not only black folks, it's just Detroit. I don't like to see the dangerous ones out here, because they're not good representatives. But James would have been, but unfortunately, he died, and that was sad. He was a good friend. He worked for us at Submerge for 4 or 5 years. He ran the record store, and he met Ralph Utter. That was his that was like his life dream. Ralph Utter and then walked in the store and sniffed around, and it was a few people, and people was really happy, And Ralph Utter, like I said, nice guy, really good guy. Always talk about music. But he really made a big impression on James, and James wanted to have a career in music, because he was a truck driver. He drove trucks. And, yep, good dude. I miss him a lot. And, yep, that's all I can say.
Yeah, that's why he came. You sent him to Tresor Records, because back in the golden years where some records were still sold, we also did pay advance payments on records to be sold, and so that's why that was possible to pay him some money up front for his kids, and hopefully
because don't pay no money up front.
Stop the truck driver action, and that's why one record then came out on Tresor Records, and I had the same problems like you had in the store, because Tresor Records was quite known for very hard stuff, not so dreamy. And the team was saying, oh, I don't know about this record, and this is too strange. And I said, no, it's good. It has to go out. And it was also very, very successful. But then, unfortunately, he died and never came over to do something live. He couldn't make it anymore, which was quite sad, yes.
Did you ever meet him personally?
Yes, I did.
How did that go down?
I don't know the first time, but I know, of course, in Detroit you were driving in cars and trucks, so we were driving and talking, listening to music in the car. He had to pick something up at home, where also his studio was in there, but of course, no way that I could come in there, wait in the car. It's all hidden territory. So, and then go in the car and then go to have breakfast somewhere. And another time we went fishing on Belle Isle. He did this crazy stuff. It was, yeah, so he said, oh, now we go fishing. I said, where? Here in Detroit. Belle Isle. So then we were sitting there and doing this with him, talking about, so what shall we do for promotion for the record? It was quite strange.
I mean, the man was big on water, and I guess, not that I would know any, but geeks around the world saw a pretty logical conclusion between certain tracks on that were hinting at submarine warfare on UR, and then it was only logical that someone had a different outlook. Can you somehow explain a little bit about the theoretical concepts and the narratives that were somehow perpetrated by the Tresor Records?
I think the best way to describe that, there's a movie out there called Dagon, and that movie was very much a favorite. It's an old movie. It looks like a European movie. It's really strange, and
what are you trying to say?
It involves fish people, and he was all off in the mutated, like, Creature of the Black Lagoon stuff, and yeah, he was way off into that, like your hands turn into gills, and they was really deep into that. It used to disturb me sometimes, some of the shit they be thinking about. I just listen to them and be like, yeah, let me hear that track, you know. But because I mean, there's a lot of them is like, I'm telling you, them boys, I put their sound out because I think the world need to know how twisted up you can get. You can get twisted up just staying in the hood the whole time. And everybody ain't got their hat on crooked and selling dope and going to prison. It's, you know, they're different guys.
Drexian are underwater warriors that were, this I can't exactly remember, from the slave boats. They either jumped down or they are children, and they just... That
was the quest. Me.
Yeah, no, but the Drexians are they were the warriors that are rising, or how you say, the next generations of the
they was
the people that went on the slave boats.
Yeah, when they would throw the women off the slave boat,
see,
they would birth fetus would birth underwater.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was based on the abyss, that you can breathe liquefied water. I mean, oxygenized water. It is, I think, anyway, you can, these guys exist at the bottom of the ocean, and they ain't the nicest guys, you know, in the world, and they trying to understand humanity, which they look at as inferior, and because they pollute the ocean, and they're like the guardians of the ocean, kind of like some fucked up sea shepherd.
But I mean, a narrative with the Afro-futuristic power that would put Wakanda to shame.
Yeah. I mean, actually, large parts of the quest, me and James, I wrote most of it based off of The Abyss, the movie The Abyss. But James and them had already had a concept of the Drexians and the Warriors and stuff, so we just kind of built on his concept. I would never say I came up with the concept for them, but I liked that they had an imagination, and that's what resonated with me the most. I was always taught that a person with no dreams is a dangerous person. With no hope, with no dreams, certainly they don't carry much of a future with them. And unfortunately in Detroit, you can get real, we call it grayed out. You know, you get grayed out, you know, seen so much that it's, I guess, the same as a soldier when they're in the war. You just expect to die at any time because you're living like that. So guys like that, obviously, I ain't got no time for them because my man in the casket anyway. But this guy right here got a dream, even though it's kind of freaky and I'm trying to understand it. I thought the dream had a sound to it. They had characters to it. It was very intriguing to me that guys from the neighborhood, like what they come from, which was tight. It was a tight neighborhood. They were from the east side. That they could imagine like this. And I thought they were very unique, and their ideology was very unique. And I think I guessed right. I think I guessed right. And I'm glad I bet on James Stinson.
There's another person that's very strongly connected to all of your work, and that was a member of UR as well in the beginning. Like, where's Robert?
Oh, Rob Hood. Yeah, that's my dog. Rob is that's my man. Rob, one of the hardest working guys in UR. He came in a young rapper with a 505. And the 505 was played out at that time. It was, that's all he had. But what he lacked in equipment, he had in heart. And Rob Hood, like I said, he wanted to help. He liked the UR ethos that we had. And me and Jeff liked him. He worked, like I said, he worked his ass off. And he was always trying to produce tracks or learn more or help us with artwork or whatever he could do to make the team successful, and he was a team player. And that's why Rob is part of our honorary lifetime member to me of UR. He's one of the circle, and he helped early in any way he could, packing boxes, answering the phone, sending faxes. His early attempts at tracks, he didn't have no gear, so we would kind of hand him the gear, whatever we wasn't using. And that was a lot to throw at somebody, you know, because you spanning 20 years of technology. Hey, man, here's the 707, this the 303, this how you hook it up. And it was a little much. But Rob, and it's just like with you guys, you're going to find that one piece of gear that talks to you. And Rob finally found it. And you can hear a lot of his early experiments on a label that I distributed called Hardwax. You can also hear some of Gerald Donald's early experiments on, he had a label called, was it Mark, LAM? I forget, but I dropped a lot of their stuff. I knew it wasn't ready yet, but I wanted to encourage them to keep banging. And Rob and Gerald Donald kept banging, and they are who they are right now. And we are extremely proud of Rob, Eunice, and their beautiful daughter, Lyric. And I sometimes, occasionally around the world, I see him, and we just get the biggest hug and all that kind of, you know, stuff. And like, yeah, man. And he's very appreciative of the time we put into him, and we're very appreciative of all that he did with UR. He caught hell, because every time he'd bring a track, we'd be like, nope, that ain't it. Nope, that ain't it. Nope, that ain't it. Then he finally came with something on, was it X101? Yeah. And it sounded like germs or disease or bacteria, and I liked it. I was like, that's kind of sweet. It's like some decay shit. And he was finding the sound. But to me, Rob Hood really defined itself on Axis 7. It was on Jeff's label, and he did a double pack. And that's when I knew Rob, he had it. And you see where, I mean, if you know anything about electronic music, y'all see where he's at now. So I'm very proud of all our guys that eventually get out the basement, because that's where he was at, and come out here and represent. I'm very proud of Robert Hood.
Yes, I must also add that his albums on Tresor, like Eternal Empire, is a classic. You know, it's actually 25 years ago. You know, that was minimal music that still really functions and works, and he influenced a lot. Even then, he moved to Alabama, became preacher. You know, and if anybody is here, you know. In November 9th, the day when the wall fall, Robert is playing and preaching for the first time, you know. We arranged something.
That's next year, though, right? Next year?
Next month.
Oh, next month, okay.
In 1 month.
Wow, I gotta get
in Kreuzberg, in St. Tom. And this is very exciting, you know. So he will play in a church, electronic music, and then he will talk to the community. So this question comes up, you know. I think it would be great if is techno a religion, you know? Is it or not? Or I would love to start this debate, because I mean the electronic music community is already a faith community, you know, and why not? If it works in America, maybe we have great advantages, you know, tax and radio frequencies. But so he's coming at 7 p.m., you know. I want to announce Robert is there, and for the first time he's preaching also. And I'm very curious.
I mean, the gospel spirit, that's probably something that was kind of tough to understand and learn for most Europeans and people in other cultures as well. It's like how strongly informed, despite all the harshness, Detroit music is by the gospel.
Oh yes, it's very spiritual. That's why I be at all the students, at the participants of Red Bull, about get out of that book and start feeling something, you know, because many of us learn to play instruments in church because that's the place that had them, you know, and or your mother like make you do it, and you know, it's go take your ass and learn how to do something, play an instrument. I'd be so happy if you was in a band in church, you know, instead of making down in that basement, they're calling the devil and all that, but. You know, we did, it's very spiritual, and I think one of the masters of it is Derek May. You can listen to his records, and it's just really, really something extra. Rob's, every once in a while I might get the feeling, but I think all the guys, it's something extra, something to it, and you can't really put your finger on it, and I don't think you really should put your finger on it. You know, it's just there. It's just a spirit of creation, I guess, creating something good.
In order to illustrate some of that and a little more, could we please watch video number 4? I guess we could have played one or two others in a similar vein that sort of work kind of well in the morning when the sun comes up. It doesn't always have to be a beautiful place somewhere in the middle of Japan, but...
Yeah, no, that was, they waited till the sun came up and we started the track. Yeah, it was special. I mean, that's what I'd be talking about, the feeling. Yeah, we felt it. When they did the sax, the melody, we couldn't even hear the keyboards no more. It was so loud. So yeah, we got a lot of love, and yeah, and that's what we take back to Detroit with us. Everybody that come and visit us. You know, people be writing really good stuff on the wall in the basement, and it really goes a long way in helping us deal with, you know, what's happening in the D right now. I can go in the basement, look what people wrote, and it really it does carry me through. I could say that. So. It's a give and take, you know. We give y'all music, people give us back love, and it sustains us. So, you know, can we do the questions? I told everybody we wouldn't be long time.
All right, so in order for you guys to muster up all the strength and focus for the questions, maybe we play something early from the catalog in order to get you into the right uplifting mood there.
Check.
Yeah, Mad Mike, Davina, Don't You Want It? What a joy, and what an opportunity to thank Carola, Dimitri, and Mike for being here and sharing with us at length. Please give it up. Now, the magic microphone comes floating. Questions?
Hi, I'm Emma. First, I wanted to thank Mike for taking the time to tell these stories that I've wanted to ask about over the past 2 weeks. It's been great to hear some of this. And then, actually, I had a question for Dimitri. I had the opportunity to pick your brains earlier this year in Switzerland at some festival. And we were talking a bit about how it is in places outside of Berlin in terms of influencing legislation so that venues can stay open and nightlife can continue and these things. And I know that that's something you've campaigned hard for. I was wondering if you had any advice to people who are living in places where it's not so easy to do things legally, and how best to try to open up spaces, whether to just break the law and go ahead with it, or to try to be legitimate enough to influence something politically.
Yeah, call me, I give you my email, and then we see it's a special case. But mostly decision makers are, you can get their interest if they see numbers, and influence. If they see money, coming in and what you're doing. And this is, in Berlin now, they understood, for instance, as I said, we have no curfew, the night is open, we have nearly 200 venues, they open in the weekends, and crime rate down, not up, down, despite everything is open. So the best thing is if we can...
Are you reading different media than anyone else?
I guess what?
Are you reading different media? I mean, the media always tries to tell people that...
No, I'm talking about the electronic music venues, and clubs, what the influence is and how they can help a city, urban development, the influence. So we have to talk about this special case, but normally there is a way. But you need this one person, this one woman, this one man, this operator who wants to run it, He must be crazy enough, He must bring this passion, then it will work. And if we look in Berlin, all these people who run a spot here, they're all crazy, Nobody is normal. It's always a niche business, You cannot learn it, You cannot learn it. So if you have it, then you will make it, And we encourage you to do that.
And all facetiousness aside, it is actually worth it to go to these legislators and show them the real numbers and go like, okay, there might be a local tabloid that might want to portray the situation in a city like that, but this is what actually is going on. This is how crime rates are going down. This is how what this and that happens.
Yeah, it's very simple actually, and especially if it's a small thing, We have a lot of examples in Germany, also in the Netherlands, in Scandinavia, when a small spot, gets this becomes so attractive for all the people surrounding, because this is desire of people, to go to in such a space and to meet people of same thoughts and thinking, and this is the reason why it works, to meet your people, to meet my people. That's
he that's how he got the attention of Detroit, and I keep saying that out of all these countries over here in Europe. Like I was telling y'all, nobody came and said, hey, you should play Derek May on the radio. Nobody from Europe, none of these guys, record companies came. Dimitri was often coming to Detroit and talking about you guys, the nighttime economy. He was telling the city government about the money that you're missing, the tax money that you badly need to help your people. You're blowing it because you cutting off at 2 o'clock. So he had all these statistics and numbers, and they go like, yeah, they just waiting for him to drop dollars. That's what they was really waiting on doing. Sometimes you put a little shit in the game. You fly them to the club, When our guys came over here to the club, they came back like, we need to open some clubs, 24 hour, they partied their ass off up in here. And Dimitri brought some city officials over. They came over, they saw it, they experienced it, they lived it, and they still talking about it. And now we're getting a little traction. I think the mayor gave us to what, Corn, 4 a.m. now. And Cornelius been over there, our manager for UR, a longtime friend. But Cornelius been battling for it, Dimitri been battling for it, and they got 4 a.m. And now we just need to make a club for them to go to. But it's real. You know, this stuff, the economic minister of Berlin told us that they make $900 million a year off electronic music. 3 aircraft carriers, you know, EasyJet, Ryanair, 3 of them to add it to the airport. The guy that's building the airport here in Berlin, he's a friend of mine, Dr. Bouillet, brilliant man, gives us information on how to build a future city for Detroit. Everybody be teasing him because the Berlin thing is over budget, but the reason it's over budget because so many people is coming here because it's so attractive to be here. You know, I paid $300 a month for 15 gigabytes a second for years. I had to pay special money to get an internet line, put it in my neighborhood, because they like, ain't nobody got no phone over there. They ain't got cable, they ain't got nothing. I mean, you know, and it was a trip. But soon, you guys here in Berlin, you're gonna have 5 gigabytes wireless, free. So, you know, when you share that information with a mayor of a city and say, yo, man, you got this billionaire running around putting up internet lines, that's what I'm talking about, y'all. You got to see that. You can't let millionaires control your communications. You can't let them control your art. You can't let them control when you go to sleep. What kind of shit is that? You got to be in bed at 2 o'clock. And your mama don't tell you that. You know when you get grown. You got the city government, y'all go to bed so you get up in the morning. You know, what if I got a night job? They ain't even, I mean, okay.
I just get frustrated. It is also interesting is, I mean, the department in Berlin, the institution who cares about tourists visit Berlin, they announced that like 2/3 of most people coming here, 2/3 come because of alternative culture offers. Not just clubbing is one half of it, but also, you know, a cool gallery, a cool restaurant, all these small spots, a cool haircutter, you know, and everything. I mean, so this, there are many possibilities, but that it worked, you know, that it finally started, you know, was because techno came over and we had these parties in the nights, you know. And this euphoria, that has influenced a lot, you know. That encouraged people to go their own way, you know. So this is my perception, you know. And we had a great framework, you know. Detroit has not. I mean, if we would have framework. I mean the curfew, the 2 a.m. If Berlin had the 2 a.m., can you imagine what this means, you know? A collapse, you know. And you won't be here maybe, you know, and you know, so this is, the nighttime has a special quality, and the best ideas I ever had in life came after 2:30, I think. Yes, yeah, think about, and I don't know where you come from, but I mean, just think about that. And for Detroit, they have now, actually, after we talked, Mike, you met the mayor for the first time, you know. We didn't open the nightclub, but you started racing, you know, drag racing, and they have a night ambassador now, you know. Finally, they have somebody who cares when the mayor goes to bed at 10, you know, 10:30, they go early to bed.
He finally listened to me because, you know, like I said, I got a little convo with the mayor now because of Dimitri. And, you know, we've been racing illegally in Detroit. I mean, it's the Motor City. Why don't we have a racetrack? You got all these, like all y'all as music artists, we got all these artists with these cars that need to get off. So we end up doing it in the street. The movie Fast and the Furious and all them people was down there listening to the guys talk so they could get their lingo right with the movie and all this kind of stuff. But I'm saying, you got the Motor City, no motorsports in the Motor City. got the biggest illegal drag racing scene probably in the world, fastest cars in the world, and they running down the street. So 2 + 2 is 4. When I finally got his ear, I said, hey man, why don't you just make drag racing inside the city? We got an abandoned airport right there. And they did it. The mayor, the new mayor, he said, you know what, that makes sense. So we did a racing day. Omar wasn't there. I wish Omar, because Omar is my man, he races. But $275,000 we made in 5 hours. All the little bad boys in the neighborhood out there looking at the cars, they got in free. On their bikes, they rolled in. And you know, gang banging ain't got a chance against race cars, because that shit is mano to mano. They see they daddies and 50-year-old men, set it out, run that, you know, and big money bet, throw $30,000, $40,000 on it. That's what, it's excitement, you know what I'm saying? So that's what got me away from being real bad. I was kind of bad, but I wasn't as bad as I could have been. So it's a very necessary thing, and because of Dimitri and because of the music, we got a little bit of an audience with the city government. I was so proud of Councilwoman, what's her name, Corin? Say it. Yeah, Lopez and Miss Sheffield. They came over, they seen it, and they brought back Positive and Adrian Tunin, our nighttime man. We actually got a nighttime manager, and soon we hoping we'll have a nighttime economy, more people get employed, blah, blah, blah. Hopefully at the racetrack so we could race safely.
That sounds like you know something about racing.
Yeah, but yeah, come on. Yeah. They don't want to know about no race car. Let's ask another question.
All right, next.
Hi, I'm Tonike. Thank you so much for this amount of inspiration being poured on us. My question was to Dimitri. I guess from this perspective, it looks really romantic, if it's the right word to say, to hear about how you came to Berlin and studied this movement that's made these big changes. And how did it feel back then? Like, what were the biggest emotional struggles you had to go through? If this question makes sense.
You know, I made the experience, if you fail, it is a special quality too, you know, because even the whole thing with Tresor, for instance, history went like a normal human life, you know, went up and then everything collapsed, you know. Then we tried to get up again. It was never like this, you know. So we always had the problem, and it's not really easy to survive. We have many people working for us now, and we are a team, but we use this freedom. It encouraged me again and again. But you need one person or 2 persons who really run it. If you can, you know, if you have this quality in a way, or this passion, then you find the people, and it's very, very important. I think we also inspired other people who managed to do something what is maybe outstanding in a way. I think somebody must start, even if it is small, you know. People will find out and for instance, the right people, you know. Not the right people, I mean people you like, you know. And this is important, that you find your people and that you work with values I have had or seen already in Woodstock, you know, with the peace idea, violent free, you know, and with the green idea and the freedom and tolerance. These are good values, they stay forever, you know. And even if you start a very, very small spot, if it's a Dada club or something like that, I give you the advice, you find the right people, they will find you, you know. And you should start in the place where you come from. But it's romantic in the way that you, for me, was that you could realize it, you know. That was enough, you know. Even if sometimes a thing is very popular, everybody knows it, but from the economics, it's bad, you know. It's not, you cannot say you are so popular and you make so much money. No, it doesn't work. And also important is to give something back, you know, to remember where it came from. Give some. I tried this also with many talks with Mike's team and so, and you feel good, you know, if you let it go. Even if we do the foundation one day, you know, I would love to put everything into the foundation, and the foundation cares about us, you know, and it can give many people of you a direction, you know, what to do, you know. I think the time is over. that somebody or a label tries to make as much money as they can do, because I must realize that many, many labels go this way, and promoters, especially promoters, do the big festival, but they don't care. And looking back to the Love Parade, you know, the parade, actually, I mean, some promoters organize it, but the parade is a symbol of a feeling of togetherness, the desire to come together with people who share ideas, the same ideas and values, and that's the reason why it became so big. You know, it became so big that 1.5 million people got together. You know, and but the management could not handle it. You know, they couldn't give them enough social input, and but I think if we would start it again with something, it would be packed immediately. This is a desire of people to be together and to work together and so on. And this is also, I think, one of your challenges, you know, when you go back and do something. And we are ready. We still can move, Michael. Carola, we're coming and maybe try to help somehow.
Carola, anything you would like to add to that?
Keep on with passion.
As simple as that, but as essential.
That's right.
Right. Coach Banks, any closing remarks?
No, I'm good. If y'all good, I'm good. I know y'all tired. Thank all y'all for hanging in there with me. I know y'all tired, and I know y'all got to get back in the studios and all that, and I'll be back there with you. So thank you for sitting and listening to all this. Hopefully it'll have some impact on you.
Well, thank you, and class of 2018, please join me once again in thanking Carola, Dimitri, and Mike for being there.
Thank you, Doss.